Hello!
Hello!
Hi guys, it has been a while. Sorry, that's as ever my fault. Today is the 27th of November. It's a Friday night. I think it makes it episode 135 of our lockdown vlog. So yeah, I thought it was a bit of a time for an update because quite a lot's been going on. Both sort of globally and nationally and personally. I think maybe the first thing that we should probably mention is that we got married.
Oh yeah, we got married.
Yeah, look at them.
That's good.
So yeah, second time was the charm. We actually did it. We got married. Look, there it is. There they are. So that finally happened.
Trying to sort of get it in focus.
Just good. Oh, it nearly did.
Yeah, it nearly focuses and then it loses it. No. You'll never really know what my ring looks like, guys.
So it looks a bit like that, but in focus.
It says "fuck the Tories" and tiny opals all around it.
That would be quite in keeping, but no, it doesn't say that. It's just lots of pretty colours. But yes, so yeah, it was definitely, I think, safe to say, a COVID wedding. It was at the local registry office. Which was surprisingly lovely, actually. I was expecting sort of a bit more of just office-y type room, but the building that Newport Registry Office is in is actually used to be the mayor's house, so it's called Mansion House. That's grander than it should be, but it's a big old sort of townhouse. And the room, well, we had a choice of rooms, but it was more expensive if you go for a bigger room, but we didn't go for the smallest room because we wanted a grand total of 4 guests. Even with social distancing measures all in place, they definitely could have fitted more than 4 people in that room.
I don't see it would have cost them any more money either. No. They already had the chairs.
Yeah, because the room is actually quite big. I understand, obviously, capacity would have to be reduced, but we literally walked past, well, I had to come up, it wasn't really an aisle, but I had a different entrance to you, and I came in from the back, and I had to sort of walk past quite a lot of empty chairs, as well as then the chairs that had our family guests in them. So it was quite a big, very nice, grand, pretty room. But yes, only 4 guests, so I didn't even get to have both of my parents there. I had my mum and my gran. My dad did join us later, but for the actual ceremony, it was my mum and my gran, and both of Chris's parents came along. But then we did do sort of, it would be too grand to call it a reception afterwards, because it wasn't, but we're allowed currently, under Welsh restrictions, to have up to 15 guests for a wedding reception. And for having a wedding, we kind of thought, well, we're allowed to have up to 15 people that we know and care about in one room, so let's do that. So actually afterwards we sort of went and had some pictures taken in a venue that my brother David hooked us up with, actually, and so sort of got everybody in the same room together, which was nice. So actually for the first time ever our parents met, and it was the first time we'd seen your parents this year.
Yes.
And then we sort of had some fish and chips, and those who could drink had a few drinks, and then sort of the parents left, and my gran, bless her, she's 97, so she was tired and had enough, I think. But I was very glad that she could come along and be there. So then after they popped off, we had a few friends join us. So I think the maximum we ever had in the room at one point was 12 people. But it was so, like, after this year, like, to be like, almost regardless of it being a wedding, it was such a novelty and so appreciated to have that number of people all together. It was lovely. It was so nice. I think we appreciated it more than actually we would have had we just sort of been planning that wedding and done that wedding, and I really appreciated just having lots of people that we cared about all in one place. And
there's a phrase that I've heard used before at weddings and about weddings, when people say, oh, it's really lovely to have so many people that we love here in the same room. And normally when they say that, they're talking about sort of extended family and sort of cousins and aunts
60, and 100 people
and uncles and old university friends and school friends and people they haven't seen because they've been travelling, and whoever who's managed to come for the wedding, and oh, you've got 60 to 100 people all in the same room, and they're all your friends, and it's so nice to have them all together, but you don't get to spend very much time with each of them because you have to kind of spread yourself out between
Yeah,
everyone.
make sure you see everybody and all of that.
Whereas for us, the exact same sentiment held true of it's so nice to have so many people we love in the same room, even though it was never more than 12.
Yeah.
And even with the people coming and going, it was probably total under 20.
Oh, 17 was our actual total of people who were involved in the day at any point from start to finish.
And then some left and some came, but like, so 17, and never in that many in the same room, but 12 in the same room of people you love in 2020 feels pretty special. Yeah.
It really did.
And some of these are people that, in the general run of things, I'd have been seeing at least every month, people like Phil and Steph and some of your friends who live very locally.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's mad, and sort of. Well, I have to sort of say, like, I didn't though feel like deprived of it. I didn't sort of feel like we are still going, because obviously there's loads of people that had we been able to and had sort of circumstances allowed, we would have loved to be at our wedding. Absolutely, like, our guest list is going to be bonkers when we can do it. We're going to have to find a very cheap way of entertaining a lot of people, because it will be loads. But for having to do it this way, I really loved it. It was little, it was quirky, it was very low key, but it was lovely. And I think like, obviously it was lovely for us, but I think actually everybody who came really appreciated a chance to sort of sit and talk with friends. So we were quite careful with the social distancing. We had a big room that we were in, and we kind of set up tables so that everybody could. It ended up being a massive circle that we had sort of spaced chairs around, and people who were in households could sort of shift along. But it was a big, lovely room that everybody could talk to, and people sort of moved around but tried to sort of stick to the tables and chairs so that you could sort of talk to different people but not have to get up
too
in anyone's face.
And everyone brought masks with them as well.
Yeah.
So
but it didn't feel too much like, because what I was a little bit cautious about was that it's gonna feel awkward and it's gonna feel what am I doing? What am I allowed to do? But actually, although there were a few elements of sort of when you get in, hand sanitize, pop your mask on and then once we're settled, because we kind of followed the rules that they've got for pubs and restaurants. The rules seem to be, if you're moving around, you've got to have your mask on, but once you're seated at your table, you can take your mask off, because you're eating and drinking, you can't really sort of take your mask on and take it off every time you need to take a mouthful. So we kind of followed those rules, and the same also applies for what time we ended things, because the Welsh rules currently are that alcohol has to stop being served anywhere, including shops as well, at 10 p.m. We didn't really know what the rules would be in terms of private receptions, but we thought, well, let's just be cautious and just go, well, end of the sports at 10. Which actually, I think we could have carried on for a lot longer. It was lovely and everybody was having a good time. However, we weren't going to sort of push things. But also, I was shattered.
And I was drunk.
Yeah. Because for all Prego here, that was actually quite a long day, and I was loving it, and it wasn't sort of like it was getting to the point where it was spoiling my time, but at the same time I was sort of getting to the I could do with not being in sort of smart clothes now. I kind of need to be I need to be comfy now. I need to have my feet off. Because actually, even in the reception, I wasn't wearing shoes for the vast majority of it. I was too pregnant, too uncomfortable. But loved it, absolutely loved it. I love that I'm your wife now.
That's good, isn't it?
It's good.
Something else I want to say about the wedding is that this was obviously our second attempt at a wedding. The first, I think it was the last of these vlogs, was actually recorded on the day,
Yes, I think it might
what would have
been
our wedding. We recorded a vlog instead.
Yeah.
And so
we might have done one since then. I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure
one of these anyway.
So and then it was delayed by a month due to kind of COVID circumstances that we won't go over again. So then you have a month of just waiting and hoping and not knowing whether my parents would be allowed to attend, what the rules were quite going to be, not knowing if some other rule would come into play or that would stop us from doing it, another lockdown or some new guideline, or maybe someone we know would catch something or come into contact
or
with
one
someone,
of us would be in contact with someone
and
who
have to
had
isolate
been,
and all of these factors. So you're just like holding on, going, I hope we can get it done this time.
Constantly just thinking like the goalposts could move at any time, which has been this year in a nutshell, hasn't it?
So though I was looking forward to being married to you, it wasn't really the kind of carefree excitement or anticipation I would have liked. It was, although it kind of had been the first time.
There was lots of like, I hope,
it was more,
I hope this happens.
I just hope we can just get it done. I just want to get it done. And on the morning, we didn't spend the night in separate places. We woke up together. I saw Ellie in her wedding dress on the morning,
which wasn't really a wedding dress, by the way.
It was a very nice dress. It wasn't like a traditional wedding dress, but I saw you in the morning before we travelled in the same car. Yeah. We hadn't hired limos or anything. It was just your mum's car. She gave us a lift, and we not that I'm not grateful, but
thanks, Mum.
Thank you. But and we were travelling there wearing our masks to our sort of COVID-safe wedding, and like I was, like I said, I was looking forward to marrying you, but I was not prepared for when you actually came into the room to suddenly feel quite emotional and sort of overwhelmed.
Yeah, me too.
By it, and quite excited and giddy.
I got very giggly. Yeah. Actually, I'd like. Because again, like, if there's the two sort of registered, the officiant lady who sort of leads the ceremony, and then there was another lady sat at the desk who's doing all of the paperworky bits. I don't really know why they need two people for that, but anyway, they do. So
there was three people in total, weren't there? Because there was someone else who came in.
There was another lady who was with me who let me in, but she didn't stay in the room, I didn't think.
Oh, I think there was only two people in the room, but there were three people involved in this kind of the admin and the organisation.
In terms of, because they made points about the capacity of the room that we had to give everybody's details to track and trace, and we couldn't change guests at the last minute, because that was one of the sort of reasons why we cancelled the first one. If we'd had maybe a few more days notice that one of our guests was self-isolating, we might have had enough time to sort of go, oh, well, we'll rejig things. But because it was the day before, we were just like, this is going to be too stressful and we're not going to be able to do it the way we want to, so let's just put it off. But yeah, it was that you needed to be able to sort of count for everybody. But yeah, so going into the room, there's not many people there. There's 4 people that we've invited, and then there were 2 other people that we didn't know. I didn't anticipate it suddenly feeling like my wedding in quite such a powerful sense, and it really did, like, straight away, because I came in, like I say, there was a different entrance for me at the back, and nobody gave me away, because my dad wasn't. If at my big wedding, I'll make my dad give me away, whether he doesn't really like go for pomp and circumstance, but I'll make him. But for this one, it just sort of seemed stupid for my mum to walk me down the aisle and then sit down. It just didn't seem like it made sense. So I just walked myself in. But then I sort of walked in, and suddenly, like, everybody in quite a big room, even though there's not many people in there, were all looking at me, and there was sort of suddenly this real sense of, oh, this feels big, but in a very nice way. And then I sort of sat next to you. Well, I stood next to you because we mainly had to stand, which, whilst I understand the gravitas of the situation, old Prego here would have rather be sat.
The gravity of the situation.
It's a situation with a lot of gravity. But I felt very emotional and very giggly and sort of giddy is a good word for it, I think. Yeah, sort of like, oh, this all feels quite big.
I've been watching Schitt's Creek, which is a sitcom. You can find that on Netflix if you're interested. And I don't want to give any sort of spoilers really if people haven't been watching it, but there is in the show a wedding. I won't say sort of what season that's in or what characters get married, but I don't think it's too big of a spoiler.
A wedding occurs at some point.
A wedding occurs at some point, and I was watching that wedding, and it's characters that I've grown fond of who are getting married, and they're surrounded by people that they love, and there's like a room full of people, and everyone's dressed very smart, and the room's been done up nicely, and there's a choir singing like a romantic song a cappella, and it's like their song but being sung like completely a cappella, and
that's nice.
And
I haven't seen it.
People sort of tearing up and stuff, and I'm quite a soppy bugger for these sorts of things, so I'm there getting a little bit like, oh, you know, a little bit emotional, and but and there's a bit of me. This was like a couple of days before our wedding. There's a bit of me going, oh, I wish we could have the kind of like the perfect thing. And there's another bit you go, I mean, it's on TV. It's a lot more kind of airbrushed and perfect than anyone's wedding really is. But you know, you're like, oh, you know, and I wasn't expecting to feel that emotional. At ours, but I did, and which is good.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm glad.
Yeah, because I love you.
If you're really underwhelmed, like on the vlog, wouldn't really be the time to tell me, really. But no, the whole day was lush. I really loved it, and I love that we're husband and wife now. We've still got. Like, we still will plan an actual sort of big event down the line, but we'll get this one born and grown up a little bit.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because we got engaged on this vlog.
Yeah.
And now we're married.
Yep.
And I was a bit worried that'd be like a season finale and people would lose interest. So what I've done is I've got you pregnant in order to kind of create like a sort of a season
savvy
2.
Move
Yeah.
So they've got a reason to come back.
Sort of a spin-off or sequel.
That's what the other vlog is.
Oh,
The pregnancy vlog's the spin-off.
Yeah.
So we won't sort of go too much more into that, but yeah, it's lovely. It happened. I'm so glad we did, because my sort of life plan was always like, as much as you can ever plan these things, like I've said, it's surprisingly traditional of me, because I'm not particularly traditional in lots of ways, but I did always want to be married before I had a baby. And I think you knew that actually sort of quite early on in dating me, that you were like, well, I'm definitely going to have to ask her to marry me at some point, because you want kids and I want kids and I'm traditional. But then COVID sort of changed the timetable on that a little bit, and so we had the conversation, the contraception conversation, during quite early in lockdown actually. So back, God, it feels like a long time ago though, but probably around about May. Just post the poppet years of being in that back room for like 8 weeks on end, sleeping on floors, nursing a cat.
And we said, well, we've nursed a cat back to health. Given
How hard
her
can children
24-hour round-the-clock care. Now, what's the next challenge?
Yeah.
Bored now.
Well, I think there was an element of, well, we handled this better than we might have.
No, we didn't turn on each other,
no.
did we? We didn't,
And I think actually this year has been, I think it's been like it for a lot of people, but quite a make or break time for relationships. Not just sort of romantic relationships, but sort of people who live together. It's been quite testing. Because everybody has been sort of in this sort of heightened level of stress and worry, because there's always a background level of whether or not you're bothered particularly about coronavirus, there's financial strain and financial pressure, there's mental health issues, there's not being able to see your loved ones. So everybody, regardless of where you are on the spectrum of how seriously you're taking the actual pandemic, has had a tough time. And I think some people who've been sort of forced to spend all of their time together, particularly in the first lockdown, where we were sort of more strict and couldn't go in other people's houses and all that sort of stuff, I think it's brought people either much closer together, as in our case, or the cracks have shown. And I think there's not so many people that have just tootled along as normal. But I very much feel like it, because we hadn't really been through anything rough at that point. Like, well, we'd been together basically a year when actual lockdown started. We'd met on the 20th of March 2019 and lockdown started on the 23rd of March 2020. So in that year, it'd just been a lovely year of dating. And we'd moved in together sort of in the September, so we'd lived together for a little while before it all kicked off. But we'd never really been through anything bad or stressful. And it's very easy for a relationship to be great when things are great. But when things are tough, I think, is when you actually realise sort of how strong you are and how well you support each other. And I very much feel like this really solidified us as a good team.
Well, I always, anytime I'm sort of talking about 2020 on any sort of public forum, whether that be on the blog or just on my social media, on Facebook or anything where other people are going to see it, I always kind of want to sort of qualify or kind of clarify and go like, well, we've had it a lot easier than some other people because we've had each other and we've had, our pets around us, and like for a long time I was on furlough and you weren't working as much, and
we had flows for the most of it.
So
more on that later.
And so we had a lot of time just at home together, but we weren't finding that too stressful or taxing. And so I always want to go like, we recognise we've had quite a nice time of it, and we've not had it as tough as a lot of people in many ways. That said, that bit with the cat with the broken leg was a rough old time, and I will, I will say that was a hard.
Yeah, $5,500 unexpected bill is not what you want when you're both not working.
Yeah,
but also not being able to sleep in the same bed and literally having to sort of be in one small uncomfortable room 24 hours a day, one of us being there. That was tough. Tough, and also still all of the like background knowledge of like.
And I'm not sure
worried about people. I don't think she's grateful, but a cat's ever grateful. Like, she tolerates us better than she tolerates anybody else. So that is about as good as it gets. But yeah, with all the background, like, nobody's had Jeff Bezos has had a great year, but nobody's had like a great year in all senses this year. It's been tough in lots of ways. But yeah, overall, like, although 2020 internationally and sort of as a society has been a dumpster fire, personally been quite a good year. Sorry.
Yeah.
Feel bad saying that, but just on a personal level, like, the year started with us in a good spot, and personally it only got better. We got engaged, we got pregnant, we got married.
We've both had some professional setbacks. Yeah. But
but yeah, overall it's been a good one in those personal sense. So now more to, like, I guess the bigger picture and what's going on sort of in the wider world, but that actually has had a massive effect obviously on us professionally, as you say. So I guess to put it in context for where we are, if anybody is watching this in the future, because the whole point is we're kind of documenting what's going on and where we're at. England is in full lockdown at the moment, so everything's shut and everyone's working from home and all of that jazz. Wales had its firebreak lockdown, which ended on the 9th, and we are now on the 27th, so it's been done for a while. So now we've got the data on how that went, and sort of that's predicted. About halfway through, because it was a 2-week lockdown, about halfway through the 2-week lockdown, the number of new cases started to drop, and they continued to drop for a little while, which was good. And now they're massively on the rise again. And so today, actually, they've just, the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, has just announced, they haven't actually finalised the details of it, but basically in a kind of prepare yourselves, on Monday we're going to be letting you know that there's new restrictions coming in, which in terms of what affects us personally is all indoor entertainment will have to close. Thankfully, I got ahead of this news and we just closed the escape rooms anyway, because we were having about 3 bookings a week, which I was breaking my back over. And we weren't making any money because you could only have small groups, and actually the amount of stress and pressure going into planning for these, and always with the caveat, not caveat, but always with the big bubble over your head of this could change at any time. And people aren't booking stuff.
And not really covering your expenses.
No, we're making a loss while being open, which is just like, what's the fucking point then? And the furlough scheme finally has been extended to March. So after some big chats and not really knowing quite what to do and not knowing what was the best, we just decided, look, we're not making any money. Let's just take the hit, furlough us all. So there's only 3 employees. We'll all furlough. We'll be taking home 80% of what we'd normally be taking home, but we can shut up shop so none of our running costs other than rent need to be worried about, and just ride this out for a bit. And then see what happens a little bit further down the line when we know a little bit more, or when rules settle, which is a laugh. On that comment though, so basically I got ahead of that about 2 weeks before we were going to have to close anyway. We'd actually already closed, and I'm glad I did, because had I had all of those long complicated discussions and decided we were going to battle it out, I would have maybe a few bookings in the diary that I'd now be cancelling / rescheduling / refunding, which is so much worse than not making them in the first place, having to give the money back. You just don't want to hold on to it. Just like, no, it's mine. But yeah, so I'm glad we did that, but I fully acknowledge there's a lot of businesses that don't have, like we are lucky that we can afford to do so, because our running costs, our day-to-day costs, are much lower than for most businesses. Basically, with escape rooms, once you've built your rooms, your main running costs are rent and staff, because you're not buying in lots of, so if you run a bar or a restaurant or even retail or anything, you're buying in stock to sell. Like, you're buying in food, you're buying in drinks, you're buying in products. And so your running costs, particularly for anywhere that deals with food, you buy stuff in and it goes off. So if you have to close suddenly, that's a nightmare, because you've got a load of stock that you can't sell that will go off. And so thankfully we don't have those stresses that other hospitality businesses have, that we were in a position where we could just make that decision. I'm glad we did. There's going to be new rules that they haven't again said what the details are on, what pubs and restaurants can do. But all indoor entertainment basically off cuts. The idea being is everything now across the UK is focusing on getting us to Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Now, on that note, Christmas is going to be a fucking palaver.
Oh.
So I've got a lot of feelings about this that I think we could talk about at length. But basically, Christmas has been on the horizon, and people have been sort of thinking in terms of how is COVID going to affect this Christmas for a while now. Like back in summer, I remember the conversation sort of happening, and there was all year there's been a sense of surely this will be over by then. But I think we were particularly sort of, by summer, we were very much like, all of the scientists have basically said there's going to be a second wave probably around midwinter, and that's what we're on track for. So that's
yet again, if you follow the science.
Who'd have thunk it? So like we kind of were anticipating like Christmas is not going to be a normal Christmas. They basically, like, I guess it must just boil down to morale. Like, it must just boil down to, they know that people will just see each other for Christmas anyway. So I think there's a certain amount of damage control of, okay, well, we'll throw them something, we'll say these are what you're allowed to do, and hope that that's enough for most people to vaguely stick to it.
Oh, it's all, the trouble is, it's, Boris Johnson doesn't want to be the guy who tells people not to do things they want to do.
No.
And it's all very well morale going, oh, you can see your family at Christmas.
Get Pretty Patel to do it. She'd love that shit.
But what's yeah. I mean, but what sort of morale boost is it if your nan then dies in New Year? Because and I like the plan that they've got seems to me to be the worst possible plan.
So we should outline what it is. So
is to say basically you can go home and you can see your families. But you have 3 households can bubble.
So there's 5 days where travel will be allowed wherever you are in the UK, because there's different restrictions in different countries of the UK at the moment as well, which makes it complicated. So they decided that they needed to come to some 4-country approach that was going to be the same rules everywhere, because otherwise it was too complicated. And too much sort of logistically to realistically even try to legislate. So they just went, right, well, we're going to try and do the same everywhere. And what they've agreed on is 3 households will be allowed to temporarily bubble for 5 days around Christmas, and you will also be able to travel around the country for those 5 days. Now, it doesn't mean that you can go and see your friends and family and change who your bubble is. Your bubble is still going to be set for those 5 days. But as you know, what people will do is just lie about who's in their bubble and see everyone they want to see, and hopefully be sensible enough to, but like essentially it's going to be a free-for-all. Travel is going to be a nightmare, because rightfully so, they're being very strict on social distancing as much as possible throughout the period where it's going to be allowable travel. So they're going to be very strict on, you've got to book in advance, and you've got to like have your certain seat booked, and you can only be sat with people in your household and all of that, which all makes sense, absolutely fine, makes sense to do. What happens if, like, let's say we were going to Bedford, which is where your family are, what happens if we miss our train home and we don't have a booked seat and we're in Bedford and we need to get to Newport? So there's going to be loads of people trying to travel and not enough capacity, because there's going to be zero standing on trains, which is good. They shouldn't be. People shouldn't be standing on trains right now. People should be in seats, and people should be socially distanced, which isn't even happening between Newport and Cardiff. So pity help the entire country.
But I've been on a train from Cardiff to Newport and back again where, you know, people are socially distanced, they're at different seats, whatever else, they've got masks on, but everyone's funneled through the same doors at the station, and there are people who are exempt or who are claiming to be exempt from wearing masks, and everyone's going off on the same trains past each other. They're all
little narrow doors to get on and little narrow corridors to get in into your seat, which you're all breathing in, and it's all,
and there's all
in the
bottlenecks
air
at the top of the stairs and everything else, and crap, and you know, and it's going to be the same at coach stations, you know, and I've been, even now it's not supposed to be kind of standing room on trains, but I've been on a train where it was standing room, and people are stood in the kind of corridor bits, and it's, I just think, and it's always carnage. I've worked in retail long enough in my life that I've had to get home on kind of Christmas Eve or come back on the day after Boxing Day or something to be back in time for my shifts at work, and it's always carnage at that time of year. But that's in a situation where maybe some people have got a fortnight around Christmas, or they've booked off the week before so they can travel down early to see the family. Whereas this is going to be everyone in the country all trying to travel.
And they're not going to be travelling on Christmas Day. So it's the day before, it's the 23rd it kicks in.
Yeah.
So basically, 23rd and 24th is going to be carnage. And
2 days for everyone to get home, 2 days for everyone to get back again.
Yeah.
It's going to be an absolute shit show. And like, also, service stations, if you have a car, you know, the traffic presumably is going to be nightmarish. The service stations are just going to be full of people trying to get food and toilet breaks. And
I would have to say anybody who is in a position where they can drive to go wherever they're going to go would be wise to choose to do so.
That would probably be
but
safer
at the
and
same
preferable,
time,
but it's still...
there's still going to be then traffic and issues at service stations and petrol stations. Ow, excuse me. It's going to be a nightmare, guys, and it's going to, I can't see how it's possibly not going to lead to a big spike in January.
It feels inevitable. Well, I mean, I'm already annoyed at the kind of, basically I'm annoyed at the British public of, like, we had the fire break lockdown for like 2 weeks in Wales,
and it did do what it was supposed to do. It was bringing it down,
and then they go, right, the lockdown's over, and everyone's out Christmas shopping and going to the pub. And you see photos of St Mary Street in Cardiff, and it's busier than it is on a kind of rugby day. And you're going, well, how is this guy? If you're not going to meet the government halfway by being sensible when they let you out, because we've been doing our Christmas shopping online this year,
which I don't like to do. No. I'm trying to sort of source things from like independents and stuff, because I don't want to be in shops right now. And actually, like, once you're in shops, it's not too bad. Most people are being pretty good. Like the shops, I think, because businesses know that they can't afford a coronavirus breach. So businesses, once you're through the doors, they're being quite good to be quite careful. It's awkward and it's a bit of a faff, but you know, it's not too bad. But just having everybody all get to the same place and in and out and milling around, it's just not great, guys. And everybody's just fatigued at this point and fed up of it, and so many people, as they have been all throughout, but so many people now are just going, fuck it, I'm going to have whatever Christmas I say I'm going to have. And I can understand that feeling, but at the same time it's like, well, how, like you said, how, like, you're saying, fuck it, it's Christmas, I'm going to do what I want. That's all well and good now. But what about Granny dying in January? Like, what about all the people? Like, the strain on the NHS, which is going to be in the middle of winter when the NHS doesn't cope that well. Like, it's just barely on a knife edge in a normal winter. We haven't suddenly got a bunch of new hospitals and loads of new trained staff. So and also the staff, bless them, they're doing this after a year of probably working harder than they've ever worked. With like their holidays have been cancelled, people have worked through their days off,
and
people have worked through their breaks for months on end. They're exhausted.
People who work in the NHS every year, many of them don't get to have Christmas off. They have to work through that, and if they're not working on Christmas Day, they probably have to work on surrounding days because those services can't just grind to a halt for the holidays like so many can. So so they don't always have the most fun Christmases like the rest of us on other years, but this year particularly they've had such a rough time of it, and we're going to put more strain on them. And I booked off. We haven't spent a Christmas together at my parents' before.
No. Well, we've only had one Christmas together.
Yes, true. And we spent it at Ellie's parents' house, and it was lovely. But this year we wanted to go home to my parents, and also, particularly, I've got one of my sisters has got a niece who is.
No, she's got a daughter. You've got a niece.
Yes, I've got a niece. That's right. She's got a daughter. I've got a niece, and she's 3 years old, and she's very cute. And they similarly spend 1 year with one set of in-laws, one year with the other, and we thought, well, it would be nice if we were in sync, so that when we go there, we get to see the little niece that we don't get to see very often, obviously, especially this year. And I booked time off for Christmas in January.
Very organised.
Yeah,
particularly for you.
I'll get in there. I'll make sure I've got time around Christmas, because if other people in my department book it off,
the plan was we'll alternate. This is the plan. Like, we planned it.
So all year, looking forward to Christmas, and then obviously global pandemic hits and plans change. But you sort of think, I mean, at that point,
back in like March and April, we were all sort of thinking, well, this won't still be a thing by then.
I thought like probably the Edinburgh Festival might still be happening at that point, and that's August. August comes and goes, and then you just start sort of trying to rationalise it, or hoping something's going to work out, or maybe there will be some guidelines or whatever else. But what with Ellie being pregnant and just the whole sense of like it's an irresponsible thing to try and travel anyway, and just not wanting to kind of be a part of that, and just not wanting to put ourselves at risk or other people, and we've just made the decision, no, we can't do it, which is a shame because it's something we wanted to do.
It would have happened though. Let's say either of us drove. I think if one of us drove, we would probably be tempted to drive it. We just think, well, we could do the whole drive without stopping, and like be careful once we're there. But actually, both because it wouldn't happen here because of the way my family's living arrangements, but your parents would be in the position where they had to choose which child wasn't allowed to come to Christmas.
Yes, that is true.
Because 3 households, well, they're 4 households, because Chris has 2 sisters, so with him and his parents, that would be 4 households mixing.
And I think, to be fair, they did sort of get in touch with us, and because they were aware that we had planned to come home, and we live a lot further away. The others will get to see each other a lot more often. Have been able to see each other sort of outside and things a few times this year, so they were going to see.
Yeah, I think we would have probably got priority, but at the same time, it was like, well, for anybody gathering, it probably makes sense to have the people who don't have to travel so far, and it won't be such a high risk, and it won't be travelling across the country. No. So again, it was just making what feels like the most sensible decision for the most people, but not a nice decision to make, because we wanted to go. Of course we did. But it's like cancelling the first wedding. We wanted to have that wedding, but again,
we did the sensible thing.
Do the sensible thing.
And I realise we're talking about not travelling about, and then some people might be thinking, but they just talked about his parents coming to the wedding, right? And well, that is true. But firstly, I would say to that, but it wasn't a time of year when everyone was travelling, so it wasn't. They drove the road. They drove. It wasn't as busy. It wasn't as, So they and also the other point of that is they own a motorhome, so they can travel about, and they've got their own toilet on the motorhome. They've got their own fridge. They can bring some snacks for the road, whatever. So they're not dependent on kind of.
Yeah, they're quite well COVID equipped, really.
Yeah, they're quite self-sufficient in that regard.
Didn't know that they were doomsday preppers, but here we are.
So if you have a motorhome, then crack on, go and see your relatives. As long as you've been being safe, and they've been being safe, and you can be safe while you're there, then that's probably broadly fine. But most people don't have motorhomes, unfortunately. And I did put a thing on Facebook about this, saying like we were looking forward to Christmas. we're not going to have the Christmas we'd planned, but we're still going to make the best of it. But we understand, like, everyone's had a grim year, and you hold on for Christmas, and we want to have the Christmas we want, but, and I want to see the people that I love, but there are so many people that just have a lonely Christmas every year, or have a lonely Christmas other years, regardless of kind of global events, just in their lives, they don't have much family, or they can't get to their family, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If you're in a position where you have family that you would have been able to see if not for the pandemic, and if that family is still going to be there for you next year, then you are amongst the lucky ones.
Yeah.
And maybe if you don't get to have quite the Christmas you wanted this year, you're still in a privileged position compared to a lot of other people. And I put that on Facebook, and somebody commented underneath saying, well, my husband died this year, I want to be with my daughter, which...
I saw that. The rules wouldn't stop her being with her daughter, though, I assume.
No, the rules wouldn't. But I think, obviously, the tone of my thing was kind of, don't travel if you don't have to, we're cancelling our Christmas plans, and maybe... and obviously, you could read what I'd said as quite sweeping. I realise this is like, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to this. And if you've had a bereavement, and you want to be with your daughter, maybe all bets are off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not...
Absolutely.
I guess I'm asking people to kind of consider their position and what their circumstances are and whether it's worth the risk. But I'm not telling someone who's lost their husband...
Everybody just stay the fuck home and stop complaining, because that isn't what you're saying at all, and that isn't your tone. But it's just sort of like, maybe it's worth just chipping this Christmas off.
And I'm not having a go at that person for piping up at all by any means. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't want someone to think that if there's anyone in that similar situation watching this, I wouldn't want people to say we're just saying nobody go out and screw you, because we're aware that we're lucky to have each other at Christmas and all the rest of it. But
if things were different and you were just stuck in Cardiff this year and you and I hadn't met, and you would just be like, well, I haven't seen my family all year, because they wouldn't have come to the wedding if we hadn't met either, and you might very well be like, I'm going to do it, and I like that's fair. I'm not judging anyone who does travel for Christmas or does do, like, if it's in the rules, that have at it. But very much, I think my tone is, think about not what you can do, but maybe what you should do, and also think about what consequences you're okay with living with. So let's say if you are going to go home and you're going to be mixing with everybody, be really careful in the weeks in the run up. Like, don't be getting sort of drunk and hugging your friends in the pub, and oh god, the pubs as well. Like, we've mentioned before the curfew being a disaster. We got to see this for ourselves a weekend ago. A friend of ours, I won't go into details, but basically she's just been through a horrific bereavement, and it was her birthday. So she wanted us to go out. I'm going out for that. Like, fair enough. I'm not really out and about at all at the moment, and nor do I particularly want to be. But for that, I'm going to be there. Fair. So we're out, and pubs have to stop serving alcohol at 10. All this does is gets everybody suitably tanked up to then go, fuck it, let's all go to our house and continue drinking.
Everyone out onto the streets
Everybody
at
out
the
into the same time. So we couldn't get a cab home. We were screwed. So I think we ended up waiting about 45 minutes for a cab. So we actually just went to a little side street and ordered a cab to us rather than using a taxi rank. But even there, in a little quiet side street, there's this little, I still don't know what they were up to.
A little clique of
group of drunk, and they were serenading us. It was weird, but yeah, there were these guys, and they were clearly just friends, and they were all probably in their early 20s, and they were literally like singing, shouting into each other's faces and hugging, and they're clearly having a great time. But like, you're looking down the street and there's just loads of people all hugging and like reveling, and it's like, if you're going out, be careful while you're out. Like please stop putting your tongues in other people's faces and singing loudly at people. We know that singing and talking loudly, that's the reason that you can't have music on at a loud level in pubs and restaurants, is because people raising their voice sends more water droplets out of their breath and causes super spreading. They know that. Like, the main super spreading events have been at things like performances and singing, like choirs and singing have been terrible for it. So maybe don't sing at each other. And I'm seeing like, oh God, there's people, and I get it. Everybody's fed up. We're really fed up. I would just give my back teeth to be able to just have some friends in the house, play some games, and just not have to think about social distancing, be able to hug them when they arrive, hug them when they leave, and just not have to fucking think
get
about...
drunk and relax and not worry about...
I would love to get drunk, but that's a different reason.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, guys, please, if you're going to do Christmas and you're going to travel across the country and we're all going to mix... like a big old melting pot, and you're going to be in the room with your great aunt who's 88 and not in the best of health, please, in the run-up to Christmas, knowing that you're going to be doing that then, be super cautious. But that's not what we're seeing. People have gone, fuck it, it's nearly Christmas, I'm sick of this shit, let's just do whatever I want. And it's driving me bonkers, because I'm just like, we're in the second wave now. Third wave, roundabout when baby's due, I reckon. So please, stop this shit.
The trouble is, the more tired and fed up we all get with all of this, none of that makes it any safer.
No.
Just because we're fed up and sick of it all doesn't mean...
going away.
And if anything, the less we follow the rules, the more relaxed and just blasé about it all get, the longer it's all going to go on.
Yeah.
And this is the logic you use. This is the logic I use at work with children. Like, keep your head still. I know it's a bit boring, but keep your head still, because the stiller you can be, the quicker it'll all be done.
Yeah.
You know? And we have to do some boring shit, and we have to have some annoying things that we need to do. But the more we all stick to doing the thing, the sooner it'll all be over. And, you know, people are intelligent as individuals, but as a group, sometimes we can be thick as shit.
Oh, we're fucking morons.
And, like... I had a point, but I saw someone shared a thing about the restrictions and about the rules over Christmas, and they were saying, well, this is just Boris's way of, like, we'll all have a third wave or a spike in January, and he can blame it on the public for mixing, you know, and it's like, that is shitty, because people are only following the rules that he's setting out. And then people will say, oh, the public have been irresponsible or whatever. And you go, well, they are, but only within parameters that you're allowing them to be. Like, and so that is shitty, but also, like, just fucking behave yourselves. You don't need, just because Boris says you can do a thing, doesn't mean you have to do it. Boris says you can go to the shops, that doesn't mean you have to go out when you know it's going to be busy. And you know there's going to be other people doing the same, and you think, oh, I'll just pop to the shops. It won't be, but you know everyone else is following the same instinct, and it's, you know,
There's no easy answers to it, and like there is no one size fits all, and you've just got to sort of think, well, what's reasonable? But like, I think a lot of people, the reasonable has gone out of the window, and they're very much in fuck it now territory. And I get it, I do get it. I just wish that people weren't doing that so much, because I can't, like, I'm an anxious person anyway, and I just can't help but, like, I'm looking to what these events will lead to, and they're not leading in a good direction.
And
however, there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Not going to help us over the next sort of few months, but there's vaccines now. There are actual vaccines, 3 different vaccines, that actually show a lot of promise, and they're on the horizon. Now, we won't get into all of that now because it's a big conversation, but if they can sort out rapid testing, which is on the horizon, because actually there are some tests that you can already do that come back with a result within half an hour. If they sort that out, make that widely available, so basically everybody who does anything can go, yeah, I'm negative, look, I did this morning, that kind of thing. We really can go back to much more of a sense of normality, because you can just check that everybody who is out and about is allowed to be so. And if we got test and trace to actually function, and we're starting to get people vaccinated, genuinely, I think into next year, things look a lot brighter. But that doesn't help us for this year, and I think, as I mentioned in the last vlog, we're exceeding the worst case scenario that the scientists have come up with. And I think that was before rules for Christmas had been said. So to go back slightly to what Wales have done with the new restrictions that they've announced today, that the details will come out on Monday, they were determined to stick to a four-nation approach for Christmas. So they want to be really strict up to Christmas in a way to sort of get ahead of it a little bit, which actually, for doing Christmas the way we're doing it, I think it's the right approach. And they've said, that there will be financial support for businesses and all of that sort of stuff, which I'm behind in principle. I think we need to. If you want to have mixing Christmas, then we need to be strict up until then, because we need people to be careful up until then, so that Christmas doesn't cause a massive spike, which I think it will. Because winter's ideal for COVID, and the NHS, as I say, massive strain at winter anyway, with all of the seasonal issues. This year's actually a good year in terms of sort of the seasonal conditions, because of all the social distancing and hygiene measures that have been brought in for COVID. It has actually massively brought down flu, and they've also massively ramped up the flu vaccine. They've given that to many more people than they normally do. So actually, there are things that are slightly taking the strain off the NHS, but COVID's going to just steamroll over all of them. But yeah, so it's just, it's a tough time in the NHS, and anybody working in it, I think it's important to say, like, they're still having a really, really tough time of it. And all of the gratitude and all of the clapping for them every Thursday and being so appreciative of them that was happening earlier in the year seems to have waned away to people just being sick of this shit. And I think we need to remember that we're not out of this, and there are so many people working so hard that we've got to kind of do it for them if you're not going to do it for us. Look after your nearest and dearest, make sure that they're safe and well, and that goes for mental health things as well. Like, do what you've got to do. If it's compassionate and you need to do it for somebody's well-being, then I think do it, whatever it is. But you don't have to just have a fucking knees up because you're fed up. That's not essential. That's not essential to anyone's well-being. If you're really struggling with loneliness, see your friends, but maybe one or two at a time, socially distanced. You don't have to just go, fuck this, let's have a house party, which people are doing, and it's driving me mental and actually putting some strain on some friendships over here. But you know, you can't control what other people do, but that's where we're at.
Shall we talk about something a bit lighter?
Something a bit hotter and warmer, I imagine.
Spicier.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So,
you might know, if you're a regular viewer of these vlogs, that we put these out on Ellie's channel, but I have my own channel on YouTube, and there I do stuff that's a bit more kind of scripted and prepared, and you know.
Do you mean to say these aren't scripted? These 52-minute videos that we're doing.
Don't say that, because I don't work well if you ad lib. I get muddled. Was that a change that I didn't get in the latest draft?
Sorry.
What?
Yeah.
And I do lots of different stuff on the channel. There's sort of some sort of lefty political stuff that you might enjoy if you enjoy what we talk about here. And I'm currently at 126 subscribers, and my goal is 150 by Christmas. So if you want to help with that, then do check out the channel and like some videos and subscribe to it.
You can say the URL now, because you've got one.
It's facebook.com/c/Chris Chopping.
No, it's youtube.com.
youtube.com/c/Chris Chopping. Oh, that'll upset the boys at YouTube.
I will put the link in the blurb as I usually do, but get on there, please. Do us a favour.
And something I'm doing on there at the moment is, and if I describe what I'm doing on there at the moment, and you go, that doesn't sound like it's for me, it's the only video of this type that I've done, so check out the rest of the stuff. Anyway, something I'm doing at the moment is I'm making a video trying out a hot sauce that I found on the internet called Farrell's Fat Bastard Hot Sauce.
I am somewhat mystified, but I haven't seen any of the stuff that Chris has worked on. I don't know what's going on.
I just thought it would be nice, because I've tried it out with some chicken wings and it was delicious. But I thought it would be nice to get like a vegan perspective.
Right.
And try it more as like a dipping sauce. So I've got some tortilla chips, I've got the sauce, Here, I've just got a little bit of the sauce because I wanted to save the rest to make some more chicken wings. But you can see. Oh,
it looks more orange in reality than it does on that screen.
It looks more appealing in reality. But it looks like something someone's flimmed up.
Oh, don't say that! I'm about to eat it.
On the screen there, but in here, in this pot, it looks very orange and delicious. But there's something about the lighting.
It looks kind of like mango chutney.
Yes, but on the screen it doesn't look nice.
No.
But here in person, in the flesh. Oh, what do you think of the smell?
Smells like hot sauce.
How are you with spicy foods?
I'm okay with spicy food. I don't know how good I am during pregnancy with spicy food. Generally speaking, I used to eat quite a lot of spicy food, and I used to get to the stage where I had that endorphin rush with it, and I found it quite addictive. But that sort of seems to have subsided over time, and I don't really eat very spicy things anymore. I also should say, for the record, I don't really like tortilla chips either. So I don't think my vegan perspective on this is going to be...
They're just a carrier for the sauce.
I know, but I find them really, like, underwhelming at the best of times.
Okay.
But it's mainly about trying this sauce. He's assured me that this isn't a ridiculously hot sauce that's going to be an interesting reaction video, but he's being cagey about this.
No, I've not been cagey. I tell you a thing about we're going to try some sauce and it's going to be fine, and then you act suspicious, and then I'm amused by how suspicious you are, and then you accuse me of being cagey.
Well, you've been acting odd about it. A little obsessive.
Very ordinary sauce.
Right,
okay. I don't mean that as a pejorative. It's a lovely sauce. It's
just want me to
pineapple, mango, and chili flavour.
Oh, that's why it looks like mango chutney then. Yeah. I can smell the mango in it now. Actually, yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna try this, see what I think of it. Should I have a big old dollop or should I be tentative?
Have a big old dollop.
Should I trust what you're saying? Oh, it's quite nice.
There you go. There you go. How is that heat-wise, would you say?
It does pack a punch.
That's how it gets you, isn't it? You think, oh, this is fine, and then you get it at the back of the throat.
No, it's all right. It's got some heat. It's packing a punch, but it's not like, oh my god, get me the milk, I'm gonna die kind of hot. But yeah, imagine if I was sort of eating a whole meal of it. After a while, I'd be like, this is excuse me, prohibitively hot. But fine for like a little, I would sort of maybe like do a light drizzle of this rather than cook something in it.
Well, I'm going to try it, because I think actually having it as a marinade on some chicken wings, you then get like all the chicken sort of with it and that kind of, and it's been cooked on, maybe it's stronger as a sauce, so I'm going to have a bit of...
It's fine. Sauce. I think I'm more wussy about it than I normally am, because during pregnancy your sense of smell and actually most of your senses are a little bit heightened, so it may just be that it's sort of like, ooh. But that wasn't sort of me, that was me coughing, you know, when you sort of like slightly just breathe it in and you get the sense of the heat.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice actually, I quite like that.
Oh, I think that's hotter as like a dipping sauce than it was on the chicken wings. Right. That's nice.
It's nice enough that I want to go back and have more. So.
There you go. Oh, that's all yours, but it's
yeah, I can sort of, the pineapple and mango, I can, so that you get that thing with like heat. Like hot sauces and stuff, where you get the flavour first and then the heat creeps in afterwards. The initial flavour is quite sweet, and I'm a bit funny about, like, I don't really like sweet chilli sauce for the same reason. I find it too sweet, but this isn't too sweet. It's nice. It is mango-y. I can get a bit of a sense of the pineapple in it. Main flavour is mango, and then the heat comes in afterwards. It's quite like mango pickle, actually, but the texture's nice. The heat it packs a punch, but it's not like, oh my god, you can't do, like, I couldn't, but I would probably be sparing with it and have like a little light drizzle on something rather than marinate something in it and then the whole, because I think after a while the whole meal would be a bit like, you know, when it's just sort of like you can't enjoy it anymore because you're just feeling the heat, you're not really enjoying the flavour anymore, and particularly with Prego belly. But yeah, quite nice.
It's got like a...
I don't know why you were being so cagey about him.
I wasn't being cagey.
Was
weirdly suspicious.
So cagey about it. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a prank.
Sauces. It has like a skull and crossbones on the bottle.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And I was like, this is why this feels like a setup.
But see, I got like a gift set of hot sauces a while ago. And they're all called things like sort of snake venom and fire hose and, you know, and these sorts of...
Fire hose?
No, I don't know. That's probably not one. But...
Like pantyhose.
They're all... No, well, a fire starter. I don't know what they're called, but they have skulls and sort of and flaming devils, and they're all making it's going to be really hot. And I think when I was younger, I found that sort of thing quite off-putting because I thought that's going to be too hot. And actually, you go, no, this is nice on a bit of hot sauce on my food. It's lovely. And very low calories a lot of the time. But
I have a friend Pat who's really into really hot sauces, but he like buys the ridiculously like high Scoville scale. Like you've got to be like you've got to treat them like a biohazard kind of thing. So when I sort of see something with a skull and crossbones and it's sort of bastard hot sauce or whatever you called it, yeah, my brain goes to like that's going to be inedible basically. But no, that's nice. I like it.
I don't know.
I would eat it again.
Yeah.
Even on underwhelming tortilla chips.
There you go.
So there you go. Oh. That's the vegan perspective. I'm speaking for all vegans.
What score would you give it?
Out of 10, I would probably give that a solid 7.5.
Nice.
I would eat it again. It's nice. I like the texture, and I'm a bit funny about textures actually. But it's a nice texture, nice flavour, not too sweet, enough of a pack of a punch. In fact, I might upgrade that. I might upgrade that to an 8 actually. Ooh. Now I think about it, because I can't really take too many points off. That's nice.
Nice.
There you go.
There you go. I should say, by the way,
I still don't quite know why I did that, but
Freddie Farrell's hot bastard. No, Freddie. he is a hot bastard. He's a sexy man.
Hot bastard Freddie.
Freddie Farrell's fat bastard hot sauce. Like Freddie Farrell, like this isn't like paid promotion in any way. I haven't even been sent this for free. Like I saw this sauce, I thought that looks nice, and I bought some out of my own money.
Right.
So.
Well, if it had been paid promotion, me not having tried it beforehand could have been a very risky move.
So if it was horrible, we would be on it. Well, and yeah, you would have been honest anyway, because you didn't know. So, but I just bought this, So I'm under no obligation to be nice. But I mean, look at me stealing some more of your.
Yeah, I approve. That's quite a hefty dose you've gone for there.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well, what do you think of that then, guys? That's my food critique. But yeah, I was a bit nervous because I thought, I am a bit more sensitive at the moment than I am anyway. Like certain things that I actually normally like. Thankfully, at this stage of the I'll save most of this for the pregnancy vlog, but for the first few years of this pregnancy, food was a real chore. Even things that I always know and like were just unappetizing and awful. I've just about got to the stage where I can actually enjoy food again, but even now I'm a bit sort of that feels a bit daring, or that feels a bit like just it might still have a little tail end of a bit of nausea, or just so I was a bit tentative about doing anything food-wise, but actually that's nice.
I can understand why you'd be tentative with sort of anything food-wise, but I don't know why you'd think I was trying to pull a prank on you.
Because you think it would be funny?
No, but I mean...
The fact you wanted to film it and you were like, let's do it on the vlog.
When have I done things like that to you? I know, I'll try and... my pregnant wife is a bit sensitive to food, so I'll try and really fuck her up with some hot sauce.
I didn't think you'd be trying to really fuck me up, but I did think you might be doing something for the lols.
I remember...
I do know that you are a stand-up comedian, and that is the kind of shit you guys pull.
Do you remember? Ellie really hates bananas.
I really do.
She really hates bananas. And, to the point that she doesn't want the bananas around, she doesn't really want bananas in the house, doesn't want me to eat bananas.
Yeah, because the house smells of bananas then.
I think it's all fair to say. And I was in a shop, a while ago, and I saw a bottle of banana flavouring, and it just said banana on it in big letters.
Yeah.
And I thought, what would be funny, because if I hid bananas around the house, they'd start to smell, and or
I would not appreciate that.
When you found them, it would be genuinely you'd be a bit repulsed.
Yeah,
and that'd be unpleasant.
It's almost a phobia, but I'm not scared of them, so I guess it's an aversion. But it's quite a strong one. It is sort of So
I thought hiding bananas around the house would potentially be funny, but it might be a bit cruel. But then I thought, if I buy this big bottle of banana flavouring, and hide that around the house, and then you don't know it's there, and you just
open my wardrobe to find banana.
A big thing that says banana on it. It would kind of be surprising, and it would be kind of like a silly, you kind of represent the sort of prank that I wanted to do without being Yeah. But then, even then I found out you were pregnant, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I didn't want to do even that much to my pregnant wife.
Oh.
Of like surprise you with the word banana in a bottle. like no, I've got to look after her and not surprise her with the word banana in a bottle. So, and I told you this at the time. So the idea that you think I'm going to try and make you eat something unpleasantly hot.
You've been going on about it for weeks.
It's not even true. I only heard about it about a week ago.
It just feels like you just seemed you seemed when we were in the run up to the vlog where you were going to propose to me on the vlog. You just kept mentioning it, well,
no, I was just
like you're excited about this, aren't you?
Right. The reason I kept mentioning it, is that you said. Well, I said, should we?
I'm not sure this is very entertaining viewing. Sorry, guys.
I said we're going to do this hot sauce, and you're like, yep, okay. And so I was like, we'll do that tomorrow then. And you're like, yep. And then the next day you'd be like, oh, I'm not really feeling filming today. Can we put that off to another day? I'm like, okay, so we'll do the hot sauce tomorrow. And like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. And I'm not complaining because you've been feeling rough, but I keep bringing it up because if we'd done it the first day I mentioned it, I would have mentioned it once. It would have been done. I kept bringing it up because it kept getting pushed back, and I was like, well, I filmed the rest of the video. I want to actually get this done though.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it just seemed like it was more of a thing than it was. So this is our longest video ever. I don't think we've ever crossed the hour mark.
Yeah, so sorry if you're finding this a bit long, but that said, if you are, I imagine you've shown some initiative on your own part and maybe watched it in chunks or even just stopped watching. So, you know.
But yeah, we should probably call it a day there because I've got to rewatch this whole thing and write a blurb for it.
Well, we don't put out as many anymore, do we? So maybe it's nice that when we do, we put out a little bit more.
I might
for people.
put that in the blurb of like, maybe you want to watch this one in chunks. It's long, guys. But yeah, so thank you for joining us again. Hopefully next time we will have some slightly more positive sort of national news.
Well, we didn't even talk about my BBC gig.
Oh,
so
shit! Would you want to?
No, we wouldn't do that. We'll save that as like a positive thing that we can look forward to talking about next time.
Lovely, yeah. But yeah. So you have had a gig though. It's important to mention.
Technically, sort of.
Yeah, no, you had a gig. You worked.
Oh, I worked. I worked all right. But we'll explain what all that's about.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys. So yeah, do please like and subscribe if you've got this far and you haven't already done that. Then well done and thank you. But yeah, get on it. But also, yeah, sign up to the old Chris Chopping channel as well because there's other goodies there that are better edited because they're edited. And we will see you. The bar for
editing is set quite low.
Yeah. We will see you again soon.
All right.
Like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.
There's no shame in it, guys. Bye.
Bye.